I am the Deputy Town Clerk, and I have a few statements for the record before we get started. Tonight's regularly scheduled Herndon Town Council meeting, April 21st, is a virtual meeting. As a work session, the public is invited to listen but not participate in council discussions. Next week's meeting is a public hearing, and the public is encouraged to provide comments for the record at town.clerk@herndon-va.gov. The work session this evening is conducted electronically pursuant to Virginia Code, Section 2.2-3708.2 and the Order of the Governor EO-53, and in accordance with the Ordinance 20-0-23, Continuity of Governmental Operations during Pandemic Disaster COVID-19, adopted on March 24th, 2020 by the Herndon Town Council. Proper notice of the electronic meeting was provided in accordance with Section 2.2-3708.2 of the Code of Virginia, along with information for viewing the meeting and submitting comments for the record. The agenda and meeting materials are available on the town's website. Electronic meetings will begin with a roll call to determine a quorum. All votes, including adjournment, will be by roll call vote. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you very much. I'll call the meeting to order, and I will ask the clerk to please call the roll. After some feedback last week, we're going to ask everyone, each member of council, to unmute when the roll starts to be called. And when you're called on, clearly state your name and indicate that you are present.
Thank you. Town Manager Bill Ashton.
Bill Ashton is present.
Town Attorney Lisa Yates.
Lisa Yates is present but did not unmute.
Thank you, Lisa. Vice Mayor Olem.
Sheila Olem.
Councilmember Baker.
Jennifer Baker, present.
Councilmember Del Aguila.
Cesar Del Aguila, present.
Councilmember DeCall.
Pradeep Dakal, present.
Councilmember Friedrichs.
Signe Friedrichs, present.
Councilmember McKenna.
William McKenna is present.
Mayor Merkel.
Lisa Merkel is present. Thank you very much. We do, for the record, have a quorum electronically. Bill Ashton, our town manager, and Lisa Yates, our town attorney, are present, as well as our town clerk, deputy town clerk, Amanda Kurtz, and several IT and other staff members. Once again, I'm going to ask you guys to physically raise your hands when you want to speak. And again, each time you speak, we're going to ask you to state your name so that it's clear to the public who is speaking. There was some confusion last time. And I'll remind you guys of that because it's a little weird, I know. I'm going to defer now to the town manager, who's going to give us an update on continuity of operations and matters related to the emergency, and then we'll follow up with questions from council. Mr. Ashton.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This is Bill Ashton, town manager, for the record. Just wanted to give a couple updates. One came up last week was the farmers market. We've been in contact with Fairfax County. Fairfax County intends to pilot how they intend to move ahead with farmers markets in a COVID pandemic world. They are looking to do it not in Herndon or Reston. They're doing it elsewhere in the county. So we will be delayed in opening the farmers market for a few weeks. That is to be determined. So it will not open on time this Thursday. Tonight you will not see on your agenda a budget update. We are still wrestling with how to go about doing that. We know what we want to do. It's the formats we want to get it in, and we will have that, as I promised, by May 1. That'll be released to the public, and we will be taking that up in the month of May. Similar to that, earlier today, I sat on a conference call with the mayor and the Virginia Department of Emergency Management. They had some local government experts on the call, and they completely reiterated when thinking about budgets, that we need to be acting under what they considered, and I quote, an austerity model. Towns are the most at risk in this pandemic in the state. Cities are next, and counties are the least affected in terms of revenues, but the towns have the most revenues at risk. They advise controlling discretionary spending to the best of your ability. As a matter of fact, eliminating as much discretionary spending as possible was advised. They also advised to freeze capital. And again, if you think about some of the things we've done to date, we've clamped down on all discretionary spending. We have clamped down on all capital projects, with the exception of grant funded projects. So other people's money that's sitting in the bank, or if we have bond proceeds sitting in the bank that we can't use for anything but the projects for which they were intended, that would be another appropriate use of capital. As a matter of fact, 3 words of caution were given during this briefing earlier today. One is, number one, plan for a second spike in infection. Just because we come out of this in a few weeks or whenever the state emerges from this crisis, they still think that we should don't immediately get irrationally exuberant if things start bouncing back. There may be a second spike in infection, and keep that in your planning circles. The second word of caution was that BPOL, which will hit next spring, will take a major hit. Fortunately for us, we under budget BPOL by anywhere from $700,000 to $900,000 on an annual basis. We'll be under budgeting probably by $1 million this year, is what we will. I think that's what Jenny and I have decided to do. But that being said, BPOL will take a hit because right now the gross receipts that would be occurring right now would go to next year's BPOL payment. So expect that. The other thing, the third word of caution, this is something that we've been talking about a lot in the building, is there's going to be a pretty another major shoe that's going to drop next year, and that's commercial and retail real estate. Those businesses that don't survive this, those businesses that look up and go, you know what, we survived pretty well with teleworking. Let's take our 50,000 square feet and make it 25,000 square feet and telework everybody else, because the business model works. You're going to see a seismic shift this year and into follow-on years where commercial real estate will be affected. These are the things we've got to consider when we look at long-range planning for this budget coming up, and it's something that we're going to be living with probably for a few years. So this was a very this section of that briefing earlier today was probably the most meaningful for us. It reiterated a lot of what we've talked about over the past few weeks, and certainly what is coloring our planning moving forward into next fiscal year's budget. So with that, Madam Mayor, I'll take any questions anybody has on the town and its relationship to the ongoing crisis.
Okay, thank you, sir. Anybody have questions for the town manager? Okay, thank you very much. We have one general item, which is an ordinance to amend Ordinance 2023, adopted on March 24th, 2020, to suspend certain deadlines and extend the validity of certain development approvals to assure continuity of governmental operations during the pandemic disaster COVID-19. I will recognize our town attorney, Lisa Yates, for the staff report.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I am Lisa Yates, the town attorney. This is an amendment to the ordinance that you adopted last month, allowing the town, pursuant to a state code section, to operate or to dictate the manner in which the town's going to operate during the emergency. It is obvious that many things will need to be done differently, will need to be done quickly, without the convening of a full-scale council meeting, without going through procurement processes, etc. We found that there was one area that we didn't account for in the continuity ordinance, and we did expect we would be making some amendments, so this is not a surprise. And that is twofold. While our staff in the Department of Public Works and Community Development has been working hard to meet deadlines and process the applications that they are still receiving. In the event that those deadlines cannot be met for many reasons, of which the town manager just indicated that, well, I think we may have conquered the challenges that we have so far, there are probably many ahead. These amendments are necessary to help assure that the town and its citizens and the development community continue to receive our services as consistently as possible without penalty to any party during the disaster. So we are going to suspend certain deadlines and automatically extend the validity of certain permits that we issue that would otherwise expire during this period. The deadlines are suspended as a matter of law. That's more or less a restatement of what already exists under a state of emergency. And the extension of the validity of permits would only be for those permits that would expire during the state of emergency. So if someone has a building permit or a particular trade permit that is going to expire before we lift, and by we, I mean the town lifts our state of emergency, it will be automatically extended so that the person, the citizen, or the developer does not have to come in and have it extended. We feel like that's a service to the community, and it takes very little at this point, just simply passing the ordinance. So at this point, I'd be happy to answer any questions about that. One last thing. The suspension expires 60 days after the lifting of the ordinance, lifting of the emergency. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Okay, thank you. Who has questions for Lisa? Signe. And I'm going to mute and state your name for the record every time you speak.
This is Signe Friedrichs. So what you're asking us to do is add on a permission to the mayor and town manager to continue projects that have already been approved. Is that correct?
Well, no, they are permits that have been issued by staff. These are things that community development issues, that building official issues, that the zoning administrator issues. The ordinance would simply extend them. It's not giving anybody any authority.
So just, okay, sorry. Yeah, I get it. Thank you.
Thanks. Other questions for Lisa? And Sheila, is that your hand or no?
I was trying to unmute. So basically,
Okay, yeah. Sheila,
this is
when you're done, yeah, would you mind unblurring your background when you're done? Because I think I'm missing your hand sometimes if you can. If not, it's not a big deal. Go ahead.
Okay, this is Sheila Olam, and yes, I have been trying to unblur and can't find the button. So we'll deal with that when I go in and meet with
Just flail so you know that I can see you.
The question I have, or clarification, is, so I've asked the town for a permit. You've granted it. I'm putting on an addition, but somewhere in there it said I had 6 months to do it, and all this happened, and then everything gets backed up. So as long as I get it done 2 months after we go back to
Lift
normal.
the emergency. Lift the
Yes.
emergency.
So whether that's a year from now, they get an extra 2 months, whenever that is. That's all that means.
Yes. If you'd like to give, I'll give you a specific example. You have, as you said, a building permit. It's to repair something on the house. It was to expire on December 31st, 2020. That probably would not be covered by this if we lift the emergency sometime before that. But let's say it was to expire July 31st, 2020, and we have not lifted the emergency yet. It would expire in September. So as long as you had your work done by September, you'd be fine. And if not, you come back in and request the extension the way that you would have under normal circumstances.
Thank you. Are there other questions from anyone that hasn't spoken already? I just wanted to clarify with the town attorney, the lifting of the emergency will require council action to repeal the state of emergency ordinance that we passed?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, you will have to take it just as you did when we went in. There will be a resolution to lift it. Yes.
Great, thank you. Any other questions for Lisa? Signe.
Just to clarify, and this is Signe Friedrichs, what you're saying is they don't have to come in and get permission. They don't have to call and get permission. It's just automatically extended.
As long as if their permit is expiring in the near future. Correct.
Thank you.
Yeah, during the emergency.
And it needs to be a staff issued permit. You have something that was issued by the HPRB, the ARB. That's issued by a board. The planning committee, they don't issue any, by council. That would have to be renewed by council, and we would bring it forward if we were to, be aware of it. So just staff issued.
Any other questions?
Thank you.
Sheila, I have a question.
Yes, that was good.
Okay, thank you. Okay. All right. So that was short and sweet. This brings us to roundtable, and our roundtable comments are limited to the continuity of operations or matters related to the emergency. And you guys know to say your name, so I'm not going to remind you that again. So who would like to go first, or do you want me to just call in order? Signe?
Sorry, I'm always afraid I'm going to forget what I was going to say. This is Signe Friedrichs. My question is for Lisa Yates. It's not really a discussion item, but I understand that the General Assembly is meeting tomorrow. Will there be any discussion at all about loosening the regulations around what we can talk about in a meeting?
I expect that they will address the FOIA language surrounding electronic meetings. I wouldn't say that it would be loosened. I think I would say that they're trying to clarify the conditions under which fully electronic meetings can occur. So what they come up with, we won't know till they come up with it.
Can you tell me why you think they only want us to discuss matters having to do with continuity of government? I mean, this could go on for a really long time, and presumably we'll need to discuss other matters.
If you wanted to, there are the language in the current Code of Virginia specifies what can be addressed under electronic meetings during a governor declared state of emergency.
Okay.
That's why they're saying that.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, thank you. Who'd like to go next? No one? No? Sheila.
There we go. Again, thanks to the staff for everything they're doing. DPW is doing their job. I see the police out cruising around, and thanks for all you're doing for us during this emergency.
Bill or Cesar? Okay. The only thing I wanted to share, I sent some things to you guys through Vicky today, letters that the governor had sent to the congressional delegation about flexibility of funding. We have established better communication with the governor's office. Now a member of his staff will be participating on the mayors and chairs calls, just so that there's a better line of communication, which is good. There was a Zoom call yesterday with Senator Warner and Senator Kane, which was great. They don't think that the next stimulus package is going to address local government shortfalls, but they are very cognizant of it, especially Tim Kaine having been a mayor and a council person in Richmond, so he definitely gets it. So I'll keep you posted. I don't know when or if another one of those calls will happen, but that was the biggest takeaway that I had from that. So if there's any comments? Seeing none. I forgot to say this is Lisa Merkel after I told you guys to do it over and over. So Mr. Town Manager, do you have any comments for us further this evening?
This is Bill Ashton. No, I don't, Madam Mayor. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, well, this is Mayor Lisa Merkel, and we do have a need to go into a closed meeting tonight. So I will ask the council to unmute their mics and respond clearly, stating their name and so moved or second, and to keep your mics unmuted until the conclusion of the roll call vote. Is there a motion to go into closed meeting as provided under section 2.23711A3 to consider the disposition of publicly held real estate in the downtown where discussion in an open meeting would adversely affect the bargaining position or negotiation strategy of the public body?
So moved.
So moved.
Second.
So I see the vice mayor, seconded by Cesar. I guess is there discussion on that motion? The only thing I wanted to say is that when we do go into closed session, there's going to be a very brief pause because we do have IT staff working behind the scenes, keeping us all together. But as all of the attendees log out of the meeting, IT is going to switch the host feature to the town manager so that only the council and relevant staff for the discussion will be there. And so it'll take about 3 minutes to probably get that going, and then we will verify that we are only the people that are supposed to be here are here. So with that, I will ask the clerk to please call the roll.
Okay. Vice Mayor Olem,
Sheila Olem, yes.
Councilmember Baker,
Yeah, Jennifer Baker, yes.
Councilmember Delagula,
Cesar Delagula, yes.
Councilmember DeCall,
Pradeep Dakal, yes.
Councilmember Friedrichs,
Signe Friedrichs, yes.
Councilmember McKenna,
William McKenna, yes.
and Mayor Merkel.
Lisa Merkel, yes. So that motion carries. It is 7:22. We will take a very brief recess. I'll ask the council members to mute your mics until the manager advises us that the closed meeting has begun, and I believe that this will take about 2 or 3 minutes. Thank you, guys.